Cookie Soup and Other Good Night Stories by Michaela Muntean, illustrated by Joe Ewers. Copyright 1990, Children's Television Workshop. Jim Henson, Sesame Street Muppet Characters, copyright 1990, Jim Henson Productions. Big Bird and the Lost Bear. One of Radar's button eyes hung loosely on a piece of thread. His coat was dirty, and a bit of stuffing was coming out of one of his ears. "You don't look very well," Big Bird said as he carefully tucked his blanket around the little bear. "You had better stay in bed until I get back from playgroup." Big Bird patted Radar on the head, then he waved goodbye and hurried to playgroup. It was a busy morning. The class made sculptures out of clay. They colored pictures, played with blocks, and sang songs. It was Grover's turn for show and tell. He had brought a book about baby animals, and the teacher read it to the class. When she finished, she said, "Big Bird, next week it is your turn to bring something for show and tell." "Oh, good," said Big Bird. "I would like to bring my teddy bear, Radar." Then he remembered how Radar had looked earlier that morning. "Except he hasn't been feeling very well," said Big Bird sadly. "Maybe he will be better next week," the teacher said. "Yes," said Big Bird, "maybe he will." But for the rest of the morning, he couldn't help thinking about the little bear waiting for him at home. When Big Bird got home from playgroup, he called out, "Radar, I'm back." But Radar wasn't there. Big Bird looked under the blanket. "I'm sure I left him here," said Big Bird, scratching his head. He looked in the nest again. He looked in his toy box and every drawer in his dresser. He looked on top of things and behind things and under things, but he couldn't find Radar. Big Bird was worried. "Where could he have gone?" he said. He thought about Radar's button eye hanging on the piece of thread and the stuffing coming out of his ear. "That bear is in no shape to leave the nest. If I have to search every inch of Sesame Street, I will find him," said Big Bird. On Sesame Street, Big Bird asked everyone he met if they had seen Radar. He asked the mail carrier, the garbage collectors, and a truck driver. But every answer was the same, and that answer was no. No one had seen Radar. Big Bird did not give up. He asked Oscar, Ernie, and Bert. He asked at Hooper's store and at Louise's Fix-It shop. He looked inside a telephone booth, on top of the mailbox, and under benches. He looked everywhere he thought a bear could be, but he did not find Radar. Big Bird walked sadly down the street. As he passed the wash and dry laundromat, he glanced in the window. What he saw made him stop and hurry inside. "Granny!" Big Bird cried. "Big Bird!" Granny cried, giving him a hug. "I thought I'd surprise you and come for a visit. Radar didn't look too well, so I fixed him up and gave him a bath. I hope you weren't worried about him." "I was," said Big Bird, "but I'm not anymore." Radar's button eye was sewn in place, his ear was mended, and he was soft and fluffy clean. "Oh, thank you, Granny." Big Bird gave Radar a big bird hug. "I have a surprise for you too, Radar. Next week you can come to playgroup with me."